War Eagle, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together and we talk about what's going on in the world of the Auburn family spectrum. Thank you guys for joining us, whether you're watching live or on the replay. We appreciate you being here and hanging out with us for even just a few minutes of your time, just to see what we've got to say in the world of the Auburn family spectrum. We talk a lot about sports here, always sports heavy. But if it's orange and blue, it's what we do here. So anything and everything is fair game here on this show tonight. See a lot of people already doing so. Please, as you come into the chat, even if you're not watching live, please do post where you're watching from, city, state, international, if you are overseas, and a War Eagle, just to let me know who is here hanging out with me tonight. On Wednesday night live streams, it's open book. Whatever you want to talk about is fair game. And sometimes I have a guest scheduled. I do not have one tonight. Admittedly, Clinton might have been able to be on if I had given him a bit more of a heads up, but I was not on top of that. So it's just me tonight, unless some of you want to call in. If one of you guys wants to call in, or ladies out there wants to call in, you can do so by checking out the call-in number that should be pinned to the top. I think it is. If you having any trouble with that, please do let me know if you want to do that. What usually happens is you're brought into a green room and I choose when to bring you in, so you have time to see if you want to be on camera or not and all that good stuff. Also trying out new equipment tonight, so I know I've been playing around with this new microphone for a little bit, new headphones, all this stuff. So if anything sounds off, please do let me know. I do want to make sure that I give you guys the best quality possible, which is why we're doing this. Anyway, let's say hello to, actually, real quick, let me do this as I do at the beginning of every show. If you haven't, please do make sure you smash that like button as you do come in. It helps other people find us. Let them know that we're live so they can be part of the live stream tonight. And it also, obviously helps the channel out. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, because we'd like to continue our journey towards 900 subscribers. We kind of stalled out for a little bit, but we'll get there sooner rather than later. And check out the description for all kinds of the links that you can do to help support the content that we do here on our podcast network. Those are all the ways that you can help support us over there. There's all my boilerplate stuff. All right. We got Stan from Sanford, Florida. We've got Michael from Pell City. Spooky from Jefferson, Iowa. We got Sherry from Huntsville. Good to see all of you. Thanks for being here so much. So don't be shy. Let's get this thing rolling tonight. Let me know what is on your mind and what you want to talk about, or else I'll just ramble about the things that I want to talk about. And there are, a few of them out there. I think obviously a lot of people have slowed on their their football intake right now because spring practice is done. A lot of the recruiting stuff has kind of, at least for right now, slowed down for the most part. Basketball has been kind of the talk of things right now. We're getting towards a time where War Tampa is going to be very prevalent. If you're not following the basketball tournament, you need to be. Last year, they came on to, I said War Tampa. They're called War Ready now. But a team that is put together, comprised of mostly, I think all but one, former Auburn basketball players, some that are very recent, some that are further back, as we found out recently here. Josh Dollard will be part of the team going forward. But yeah, so that's kind of some of the things that I had on my mind and that I wanted to talk about with all of you tonight, because I'm really excited for that one going forward. Are we going to end up with 2 first-round NBA draft picks? Great question to start off with. I think, if you haven't, quick plug, we did a recent podcast, meaning last night, myself and Gray Oldenburg. We do Inside the Jungle Together, which is our Auburn men's basketball podcast. You can find that on the main feed, on Apple or anything out there. We talked a lot about this with JT Thor announcing that he's going to be not coming back. That gives us an opportunity to have 1, probably 2. Obviously, if he thinks he's not coming back, he thinks he's going to go, right? And people have already started with something in the chat there. I'll have to get to that in a second. But possibly 2 in the first round overall. There's some people, if you look at some publications that are predicting that maybe even JT Thor goes above Sharif Cooper. there's a possibility out there that could happen. There's a possibility they could both go in the first round together. I feel fairly confident to say that we're going to have 2 drafted this year, which is crazy to think about, right? Think about the trajectory of this. Auburn basketball goes eons without getting anybody drafted. Then Bruce Pearl comes on the scene, and he sends Chuma Okeke, Isaac Okoro, and then he's going to follow and he follows up Chuma Okeke with a top 5 pick of Isaac Okoro. He's going to follow that up with 2 picks, potentially in the first round, this next year. So what is he going to do next year? Send the entire team? I don't know. But I feel pretty good about it, Stan, that obviously that we're going to have 2 draftees, but first round, there's potential out there. All right, so we've got the battle of the War Butterhands and the War Dustbuster. For those of you that don't know what Butterhands is, this is Autumn. This is Clint Richardson's wife. Calls me Butterhands for reasons we won't talk about. Tell the people to submit their crazy uniform concepts on Twitter at ClintAU24. That's a great plug. So Clint usually, or not usually, but like a lot of times will join me here on Wednesday nights to talk about crazy uniform stuff. So if you're not following he just did a year-end review of a uniform stuff for Auburn that you'll want to go check out at his website, Auburn Uniform Database, auburnuniforms.com. You could also follow him on social media there and start submitting crazy uniform concepts that you want him to come up with, discuss, talk about. Those are something that are usually very fun to talk about on there. Let's see. John Brown. Good to see you, John. Thanks for being here. And let's see, the Dustbuster. Yes, the Dustbuster. It's not that it's been brought back. It's always been here. If you've been here on a Wednesday night, you know what we're talking about. I don't think we'll ever there. And look, there's Neil right on cue. We just started talking about War Dustbuster, and Neil shows up. War Dustbuster to you as well. I cannot believe in my wildest dreams that I think that is what we would be known for here on the show, the War Dustbuster. I guess you'll take whatever notoriety you can get. He's playing Fortnite season, so he's busy. So that is what he gave up being on this show with us. I'm hurt. I'm very hurt. Very, very hurt. Did you know that the records Auburn are holding are wrong and that Auburn actually wore orange jerseys when Terry Bowden was a coach? Well, look, anytime the orange jerseys conversation comes up, I defer to Clint Richardson, who is not here tonight. So I'm not going to disagree or agree with that because I lay my, myself at the feet of Clint Richardson in that type of discussion point, because I'm not going to get into that debate about the orange uniforms because I'm not as well informed on as it should be. But Clint is. And you can read all about him at auburnuniforms.com. I sound like a walking billboard for you tonight, Clint. I hope you're happy. I do what I can. Clint says that's false. There you go. So Clint has spoken. He says it's false. This is why you should have been here, Clint. Let's talk about those things. Sorry, I had to grab a sip off that. But yeah, so that's one thing there. Will there be an SEC Media Days this year because of COVID? My understanding is that the way everything else is the trajectory of everything is that's probably a yes. However, if you're someone who is not a big time media person, you won't be getting into SEC Media Days. I'm sure. If it was already hard enough to get media credentials to an SEC event, especially SEC football, it's going to be even harder now. So I would imagine it will happen, but in very limited capacity. It just made it even harder for small media people to function. So that's another great thing about COVID-19. Thank you, COVID-19. You ruined everything. Yeah, but I obviously we'll have it. Even if they can't have it in person, they'll do it virtually, and I'll still enjoy it. SEC Media Days for me, I don't know if about everybody else feels, it's like the kickoff for football season. It's what gets me jazzed. It's what gets me excited. Like, okay, this is real. Now, really, if you think about it, practice doesn't start right after Media Days. Media Days is like the middle of July. And then, you've got about 2-ish weeks, give or take a couple of days. And then fall practice usually starts right before, 2 weeks before classes get in the session, I think is what it amounts to. Yes, I think I've got those numbers right. So yes. But there you go. We've got a debate happening. He is wrong. I'm gonna let you two hash that out another time. I wonder if football tickets will be crazy expensive this year. Not as expensive as last year. But here's, well, actually, I say that, and then you got to think about it this way. So last year it was as a simple equation of supply and demand. You know, there was very limited availability, thus the price was going to go up because people were going to snatch up what they could get. There's going to be apparently full availability this year, but people have been itching to get back. You don't think that's going to be it's a first year head coach. People are ready to have kind of a new feel on things. All those in between. You don't think those prices are going to be out the roof? Yet another reason that I wish I had media credentials. And yet I don't. Yes, they will be expensive. I will try my best. I will be at all the home games on campus. If I don't get a ticket, I usually go watch in the student center. You can come watch it with me because I'm usually there working during the game. Michael's wondering about the ticket prices as well. I can only imagine. Neil, I got my second jab yesterday. 0 side effects. Woohoo! You haven't grown that fifth arm yet, or or started craving human flesh? Probably gonna get like dinged for that one on YouTube for even joking about that. But I'm glad you're doing okay, and glad you got through with all that stuff there. So you're good, right? So you're going to Auburn football. We're gonna see Neil White from East Cobb in the stands, and I need you to make a sign. I'm here. Shout out to E2C Network. Spooky, still upset they moved the UGA game. By the way, guys, remember, if you do want to call in, don't be shy. It's pinned at the top. If you need me to remind you of what the link is here in the chat, let me know. I'll post it in there. But it should be pinned to the top of the chat window if you want to call it. It's painless. It's really usually pretty fun, actually. Still upset they moved the UGA game. I understand that because I'm a traditionalist. Clint will tell you that as well, that I do not like change and I lament things like that. However, the more I've sat on the move for UGA, I kind of like it because most seasons, and I don't think it's necessary that this way this season, most seasons, what it sets up now is you divide the season. You can divide the season up whatever you want, halves, quarters, thirds, whatever. I'm looking at it as a thirds situation, a set of 4 games in each of the main months, September, October, November. That gives us one of the big rivals, but obviously the big games for us every year. Georgia, LSU, and Alabama, each usually in one of those quadrants there. And there's no smash up at the end or at the beginning or something like that. So personally, I'm okay with it. I understand not liking it. I would have preferred it to stay the same to Amen Corner. But in a world where Alabama is getting their way on everything and is not going to allow a move of Auburn to the east so that they can keep their rivalry of Tennessee, we have to take what we can get. And I know that doesn't really amount to that. It would be, Auburn. I think Auburn's even volunteered, from what I've heard, to play at Georgia or at Alabama 2 years in a row to get it swapped back properly. But it's not going to happen. No fifth arm. I've developed a new superpower, which is that I can fly. Well, I wish I could do that as well. Sign, I'm currently making a War Dustbuster t-shirt. If you do that, you will be my hero, Neil. You will absolutely be my hero. I've learned to embrace the War Dustbuster thing. Here's the thing. People are not even going to know what you're talking about, but what a great conversation starter. How far you want to go with that conversation, that's on you. Moving GA game messes with tradition. Yes, I agree. It does. I 100% agree. Like I said, I 100% understand and lament myself about the smashing of tradition and stuff like that as a traditionalist. But I think it's going to make a lot of sense long way down the road. So that's why I'm okay with it for now. It puts Auburn in a tough spot. If they play Georgia early in the season every year, you really have to be on your A game early. And Auburn traditionally isn't. They're a team that builds over time. New program, new coach, all that stuff. So can't really assume all those things will stay the same. Have a War Dustbuster sign. Don't put math into football. Listen, football is nothing but a game of math. It is. Can my 11 equal out your 11, essentially? Which did you get, Neil? Getting hours Friday from that school is out. I don't need a request, and I don't need to request a sub. I think whatever you get, Autumn, it pretty much kicks everybody's butt, is what I'm told. Let's see. Well, I made this T-shirt based off a live stream where some weirdo popped up talking about. Looks like you've got it planned out, though, right? Hey, as long as you're prepared for those conversations, more power to you, my friend. More power to you. Auburn, maybe in the SEC East in the future, new teams possibly. I always love that topic. It makes sense for Auburn to go to the East. It absolutely does. A lot of our more traditional rivalries are there: Tennessee, Florida, Georgia. Really, truly, those are more storied than LSU. Really, LSU's become that, but because of us being in the West. But if we could go over, that's where we do a lot of our recruiting. We dig deep into Georgia and Florida, Tennessee, the Carolinas, and stuff like that. We've done a good job since being in the West of trying to mine Arkansas, especially in Texas. Just recruiting, rivalries, logistics of we're closer than anybody else to it, even Missouri, who's over there in the East. So does that mean that maybe if new teams came in? Yes, absolutely. Now, I think the most likely team that that SEC would bring in would be West Virginia. Think about it. You don't go, as much as I want Florida State, Georgia Tech to be in the SEC, or Clemson to be in the SEC because of the rivalries they have already established with the SEC, and because of just, it makes geographical sense. This is a business. They would only make that decision if it was a good business decision, which means they need another market, which means West Virginia is prime, and the Northeast corridor is prime for the taking. And they don't match up with the Big 12. So if anybody was at it, it would be them, which would mean they would fall into the East, which means it would make us, less likely to get switched around over there, unless they were, there's a lot of things that could happen. What about you guys? What other teams do you think that the SEC might pick up? Do you think Auburn will have a solid chance to make playoffs? They always have a chance. What do you define as solid? A solid 1%? That's a solid 1%. No, I don't think Auburn has a solid opportunity to make the playoffs. I think if you're expecting Auburn to make the playoffs this year, then you are going to set yourself up for major disappointment. Now, I will be happy to be wrong on that. 100%. I will be ecstatic. I will come here on the day after we make the playoffs and say, I was wrong. Hooray, hooray, hooray. But we are not making the playoffs this year. There's too many problems still to be cleared up on the offensive and the defensive line. There's, a switch over in offensive and defensive schemes for that matter. But the offense is really what's going to be affected. So I do think the likelihood of Auburn making the playoff is very low, 10% at max. There's still a chance. And I could be wrong, and I'd be very, very happy to be wrong on that one. Random question. All the hype around Arch Manning, where do you see him playing? I don't know. I was listening to a radio show and they were talking about him. And, I think I'm just expecting him to go to Alabama because that just seems like the stupidest thing ever. Not stupidest thing ever. I'm sure it's brilliant for him, but it just feels like that's what will happen. These days, especially with Nick Saban now secured for 2028. Is that when they secured 7 more years? Yes, I think that's what it was. So yeah, I do think, I think Archie has got a lot of options. Arch has a lot of options. Don't know that Auburn will be able to squeak in there. Maybe not. Yeah, I agree. Playoffs likely no. Georgia Tech and West Virginia would be a good addition. Plus Georgia Tech rivalry would be good to come back. But here's the problem: is you'll never see them if we're still in the West, except for think about it. You only see each SEC East team outside of Georgia every 6 years. You add 2 teams to the mix, that gets even further, which means you'll never see their away stadium or you'll have them at home every 12 years. it'll be every, however many now that spreads things out. If you add 2 more teams to the East and make Missouri come to the West, as they should already be. I think Georgia Tech would be great for us. Obviously, I don't know that it would be a great addition for the SEC because they have the Georgia market. They have the best part of the Georgia market, which is the Georgia Bulldogs. West Virginia makes sense. If they were going to add somebody else to the East, I would say they'd go into the Carolinas. North Carolina, maybe. Probably not going to happen. Or, in fact, it won't happen because they won't do that. Sacrifice being part of the ACC for basketball. That's probably your best option there. It's not going to be Duke. You don't really want Duke in football. Clemson's not coming over with the sweet spot they got over in the ACC. So really you'd have to pull in like a Wake Forest or something like that. And that's not worth that to me. West Virginia makes the most sense. But maybe if they get West Virginia and they say, hey, look, we don't have to get a new market now. Let's add somebody with some tradition here. I wouldn't be opposed to that. Adding UAB would be hilarious, but at the same time, I wouldn't hate it, to be honest with you. I honestly would not hate it because then it would force Alabama to play them at some point, even if they were the East. It would force Alabama to have to pony up and play UAB. Same thing for Auburn too. But it would be really funny to see that happen. Not the worst idea ever. West Virginia could be in the West. Look at Missouri. Hey, look, if they can put Missouri in the East, they can put West Virginia in the West. At least West is in their name, okay? They've got more of a case to be in that side than the other. Georgia Tech used to be in the SEC, right? And I want to say they've won 4 national championship football. I'm not sure how many were in the SEC. Correct me if I'm wrong. I wish Clint was here. I don't think they were necessarily in the SEC. I think they were in the Southern Conference, or some version of that. But essentially, it was. I could be wrong, but I think it was a different conference other than the SEC. I think. Don't quote me on that. But yes, here's the thing. Georgia Tech used to be a power. There was a day that Georgia Tech, you didn't want to face them at all. Now, I'd face them. We will trade Vandy for Georgia Tech. Send Vandy to conference. I was like, CUSA. Who's CUSA? Are you doing like a Syracuse thing? Conference USA. That wouldn't be a bad trade, to be honest with you. I don't know. There's a slight affinity I have for little old Vandy, so I'd be sad to see him go. There was a time where they were really providing for us in other sports other than football. That time is slipping away right now. So they need to get it into gear if they want to be still legitimate in the conference for something. Darius, what's going on? We should play a team like Wake Forest or UB. Neither teams are a slack. You might see that coming up in the near. Wake Forest is, you don't want to really take Wake Forest for granted. They'll sneak up on you and beat you. UAB, probably not. They give you a fight, but not too much of a fight. Read an article that suggested getting rid of the divisional system in the SEC and go with pods. That system would allow Auburn to play every team on a 2-year rotation. Yeah, I think there's a lot of solutions out there we can discuss to make the rotation better. I don't know that you're going to see those happen, though, especially right now coming out of a pandemic. You're not going to have a lot of people wanting to really change the travel systems up. That there's going to be a lot of hesitancy. Kyle, use your words to stuff like that. I want to keep Vandy for baseball. Adam says they're fun. Yes, they are okay now for baseball. They're not as good. They're still good. Obviously better than Auburn this year, but Vandy needs to do a little bit more. They need to get their basketball game back up. They do not help themselves with the whole football thing. As a reminder, if you haven't, please do make sure you smash that like button. It does help people find the show and allows them to be part of our conversation today. And as a reminder, don't be shy. Call in if you want to. It's posted at the top. If you can't find it, let me know. I'll post it again up there. I'd love to have some of y'all call in. I don't think you have to be on camera. I think it gives you the option to, but I don't think you have to be. A North Carolina school would make sense to be in the SEC. It does, but who are you going to get? Your options are North Carolina, Duke, and Wake Forest, essentially, right? Coastal Carolina as well, but North Carolina and Duke are your best options, and they ain't leaving, especially with their place in the ACC basketball. They're not leaving. Oh, NC State as well. Okay, so there's one. NC State. NC State's a good option. I will retract what I just said. They're kind of stuck because you would think that NC State and North Carolina would be bigger rivals than they are, but obviously it's UNC and Duke. That could be a similar story as a Texas A&M, a team that had, traditional history over in the Southwest, but was willing to give that up to build something in a different location, in a different group. NC State could do that. I'm not opposed to that. NC State usually is not a pushover. They tend to every once in a while be a little bit better than average. Not a bad addition. Not bad. I really want Troy to succeed. Wonder if they can go back to beating Power 5 teams, LSU, Nebraska. LSU fans are like, please don't mention that ever again. No, we will. Just like Lamo beat Alabama. Never let them forget that. We almost did too, but hey, that's besides the point. Almost only counts in horseshoes. Let's see. So yeah, I would say Troy. I always like to see the in-state schools minus Alabama be successful, but it's schools like Troy. They're going to be, just like UAB. They're going to be kind of like this. They're going to hit a high point, then they're going to dip down. Hit a high point, and then dip down. Excuse me. Louisville would be a reasonable to put in the SEC, in my opinion, and they could more than likely compete first year in there. That's not a bad option. Again, think about markets. They're right next to Lexington. Other than bringing you a rivalry, it doesn't do anything for the conference. NC State, West Virginia, yes, they do something for the conference. It's a business thing. I hate to break it to everybody, but it is a business. Corey, what's going on? Good to see you, my man. Thanks for being here. War Eagle to you. We're just bouncing around tons of topics right now. East Carolina, it's another team, but do you really want East Carolina? I'd take Coastal before I took Eastern. App State? Up and coming App State? Not bad. Don't know if they're ready, but maybe. Wouldn't beat any team not named South Carolina or Vanderbilt. They beat Michigan. Don't count them out. Let's see. NC State has put out 2 very good NFL quarterbacks in the last 15 years. Yes, that is true. That's very true. I would give the Russell Wilson story or that more over to where did he end? Wisconsin. I know he kind of built his name there, but I wouldn't give that all to NC State. But they still put out some good quarterbacks. So we got a trade discussion here. NC State and West Virginia versus Mizzou and Vandy. I don't understand the hate towards Vandy. I don't. Like, they're like that lovable little brother that sits over there and it's kind of like, oh, you do some good things every once in a while. Well, you make us look better because you're smart. Let's just keep them. I'd feel bad for him personally. UCF would make the most sense since they have an ex-SEC head coach. Well, it'd be funny. I don't want that to happen. The carnage that would ensue. Clint, Autumn has told us Clint's vote is Georgia Tech, obviously. Why obviously, though? You say that like I should know that. App State did trash Michigan. Who hasn't these days, though? At least everybody's gotten a crack at that one. Memphis is becoming a great up-and-coming team in the AAC. It's not a bad option as well. It kind of, again, I keep using this buzzword market tonight, but I mean, really, that's what this discussions really go to if they actually were going to happen when people making the decisions. You think about it, they're surrounded by Missouri, Arkansas, Vanderbilt. I'm not going to really count Kentucky in that equation, and Ole Miss. and Mississippi State as well. But they kind of find themselves almost, if they weren't so close to Ole Miss, Memphis kind of finds that little pocket in between all of those schools that they could kind of pick up. But mostly people from all those schools are drawn in because they're close to one or the other. Memphis is yet again another one that if there weren't other schools, if there wasn't a Missouri, sure. If there wasn't an Arkansas, maybe. But there are. There is. So it would likely not work too well. He's putting good up numbers everywhere he goes. Wow, Neil. Vandy's a snotty school full of snotty rich kids. I think people can probably make that statement for a lot of schools. That's the impression over there at Vanderbilt, though. I'm not complaining because they bring our GPA, just as Michael said. Let's see. Could we see a smaller Texas school like SMU or TCU join? I wouldn't be opposed to that. The Texas market is so big that it really wouldn't be a stretch for them to try that again, especially if you can get a Northern Texas team like a TCU or an SMU. That honestly might work, as opposed to trying to bring in an Oklahoma or an Oklahoma State. That actually might work a lot. So that's not a bad. Baylor, it's further south, not south, but more southern than those, and that's getting closer to the Texas A&M area. So if you're going to pull a Texas team in, SMU, North Texas, but no, again, that's kind of the same conversation as Coastal Carolina. See, and this is what Clint, and I agree with him now. The Rec Tech parade could return if we brought Georgia Tech back. Yes. Who doesn't want to relive that? We need to schedule Georgia Tech right now for a home and away just so we can do that again. I actually haven't gotten to experience that. I really was growing in my Auburn fandom the last time we played them. So I really didn't get to appreciate all of that. Baylor, yeah, like I was saying, Baylor's a little bit further south. I know I'm getting a little behind in chat here, but let's just catch back up. So was it officially the SEC? Someone confirmed that for me because we were discussing that earlier. I'm not sure it was actually the SEC. Maybe I'm wrong. Georgia Tech, greater than Mandy. I'll take engineers over snotty rich kids. Neil, do we need to have a counseling session with you? And I feel like there's some repressed memories and feelings here about Vanderbilt. We really need to talk about this, buddy. Look, I will say this. The one bad thing about bringing a Georgia Tech here is then we've got to compete with them in engineering in the SEC. And we don't want that, do we? We're the premier engineering school in the SEC. And I know that we're talking athletics here, but this is the E2C Network. We talk about everything orange and blue. Memphis could compete with at least 40% in the SEC. Let me throw out some teams. Okay, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Missouri, South Carolina, Tennessee. Right as of right now, Tennessee, Mississippi State, Ole Miss. Yeah, that's not a bad estimation. Not a bad estimation. Okay, so here now we understand. You used to live in Nashville. When I say the school is full of snots. All right, at least we have context now. Like the vitriol that was coming forth from you, even in written form over Vanderbilt, was like, I was like, wow, man, what's going on here? Now we understand. Now we've got the full story. What's the story about Auburn greasing the tracks when Georgia Tech train was coming? I mean, that's basically the story. Is they were our rival. We greased the tracks when they were riding into town for a game, and they slid all the way to Notasulga, I think. Is it Notasulga? Notasulga is how you say it, I believe. Yeah, that's basically the story. I'm sure Clint's screaming at me right now if he's listening through via Autumn. It's like, hey, Kyle, you're leaving out so many parts, or you've got it wrong. Maybe. Give us Memphis and boot Vandy. I wouldn't take that trade. NC State for Vandy, yes. West Virginia for Vandy, yes. Yeah, that'd be the Texas Tech. It's far enough out there in the west of or in the north of Texas. That wouldn't be a bad option either, and they kind of don't really fit they don't have like a solid rivalry with anybody, I think. Whereas like TCU's got a rival with Baylor, and SMU kind of the same as Texas Tech's kind of out there on a limb. That's not a bad option either. I'd probably, of the ones we've legitimately talked about thus far, maybe SEC editions, I would say West, in like what I would like, what I think would happen over anything else. I'd say West Virginia, right here. I think a TCU. No, I'll say NC State, and then it would be kind of a tie between all the Texas teams right now. What I think would happen. I think that West Virginia area is so attractive to the SEC, not because of West Virginia itself, but because everything surrounding it. They get you in Ohio, Pennsylvania, even the bubble that surrounds that is what would be attractive to SEC. I have lived all over the South. Memphis would be a great addition to the SEC. Best barbecue. I'll debate that. Auburn has the best barbecue. They used to have the best barbecue. Mike and Ed's, my favorite place, is now gone. I think they still have a store like in Columbus or something like that. By the way, here, quick poll of the room. What's your favorite barbecue place in Auburn, chain or otherwise? That new place, Rob's Ribs, is opened. I haven't been there yet. They weren't open when I was in Auburn last. So I probably will swing by there and give that a whirl since it's in my former location of my favorite. But yeah, anybody got a favorite barbecue place in Auburn? And there's a lot of options now. I don't think Full Moon's in Auburn, but Full Moon in Montgomery, that was really good. Really, 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 really good. Montgomery is so close to Auburn that I almost consider it like slightly like a sister city. Slightly, but not. It needs to be just a little bit closer. If Montgomery were Tallahassee, I would say that. Most of you are like, where's Tallahassee? Look it up on a map. That's where my parents are from. South Central Louisiana State University. Heard they got a good linebacker that started as the water boy. Yes. Oh, yes. Let's see. Heard he's a top 10 draft pick in the mocks. Yeah, of course. He could lay the wood on some people. All right, let's see here. Let me back up here. We need Clint for a night of Auburn lore. Apparently, yeah, he did say Autumn's vouching for him that he'll be back next week. So, yes, we'll go ahead and get that scheduled and marked down for Clint to be here. And I won't forget to remind him until an hour before the show like I did tonight. Texas Tech is weird, so no to Texas Tech. That's fair. That's a fair statement. That's why I kind of was like, it's interesting. I just don't know if I like that. I'd much prefer an SMU. I'd much prefer a TCU. NC State, West Virginia is still in the mix there. It's Texas's rival, then it's Oklahoma, and then it's Oklahoma State. Why not bring in UAB, South Florida, UCF into the SEC? They're too small right now. Give UCF some time. They might still have an argument. Got a pretty good coach too. The people that are probably watching this, not on the live stream, are just livid now that I had the audacity to even joke about that. They're not big enough. UAB won't happen. The most likely to happen out of that right now is South Florida because they're so far removed from any other SEC school. If you want a new market, there you go. South Florida is it. Put Clemson in there. That would give them at least one beat down a year, no playoff. Clemson ain't going nowhere. They are sitting pretty for a long time. It's getting to the point now that if Dabo Swinney, if it continues the way it has been for them, if he leaves for Alabama, he's an idiot. I'll say it right here. I think he's a great guy in terms of, his being a believer and all that stuff. I don't know him personally. It could be completely all fake, but from what I can tell on the outside seems to be legit and all in terms of that type of stuff. But he's an idiot if he leaves Clemson. I'll say it right here. The Citadel could form a good rivalry with Texas A&M with that whole weird chanting with the yell leaders and military stuff. That's fine. Country's barbecue. Country's is not bad. That has some like memories for me because I think they started in Montgomery. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I know they had 2 locations there at one point, and I grew up going there like every Sunday after church. We would go to Country's barbecue, and it seemed like every Sunday night for some reason. And I'm drinking out of the mason jars. I'm not a big fan of their fries, but Country's barbecue is very good. Here's the weird thing. I've never been to the one in Auburn because I spent so much time going there as a child to the ones in Montgomery that I was just like, I don't need to go there. I've been to Country's. If I'm going to go there, I'm going to go back to the one I know. So maybe I should go there and give it a whirl again. Barbecue does not exist in the state of Alabama. Neil, we're going to fight. It does. Obviously, I do think, places like North Carolina, Memphis, have great barbecue, but and they're known for it. But Alabama, have you ever been to Big Bob's or Witt's in Decatur? I forget which one I like. I think it's Big Bob's I like best. But even so, we have a family friend that is a certified barbecue judge, I guess is what you'd call it. Like, I'm not joking. This is not me just being funny, because for a bit, he is legitimately has to like take these certifications, these tests or something like that to go on a circuit. I don't think he's done it lately because he lives out of state now, or lives out of the Southeast, but he was a legit barbecue judge, and he swore up and down about the Decatur barbecue places. They're good, just not my favorites. Yes, they are still there. Dream. Whoa. We got some people talking about the barbecue. Dreamland sucks. I wouldn't say that vicious about it, Neil. I'm not a fan of Dreamland, though. I will be honest about that. Liberty, still a bit ways off, Darius, from being included in the conversation. UCF is much further along to being considered for the SEC than Liberty will be. But it's a good market. Virginia would be a good market area. It would kind of take the place of a West Virginia. If someone says Sonny's, I'm going to punch my computer screen. I love how fired up Neil is tonight. We've gotten him fired up about talking about Vanderbilt. We've also gotten him fired up about talking about barbecue places. I love this. Corey, your dad is from Tallahassee. Small world. Tallahassee. I can't believe I just did that. My dad is rolling over in his grave right now. My aunt and uncle and cousins lived there until they're much older now, and so they're gotten married and stuff. But basically, our homes, actually, both sets of grandparents were there. I mean, it's basically a second home. Spent a lot of time in Tallahassee. Moe's is not bad. I do like Moe's. Grew up going there. Last time I was there, stationed to Fort Benning, all the ribs nights. Let's see. Cracker Barrel is underrated. Well, we're talking about barbecue places, but it is underrated. I do love some Cracker Barrel. Do they even have barbecue? I'm sure they do. All right, we're getting way behind in chat. I'll try to catch up. Dabo would never leave Clemson for Alabama. Will not ever happen ever. Excuse me. I got that backwards there. I hope you're right, Neil, for his sake. Who on earth wants to follow Nick Saban? I'm sure you're going to have the best success set up for you possible in the modern era. But my gosh, you do not want to be the guy that follows Nick Saban. It can't be done and survive. If we're going to South Florida, let's grab Miami. Go against Lashley's offense. Don't you mean Gus Malzahn's offense? Because that's all he got accused of doing. I'm gonna get people mad at me tonight. Yeah, the U's not a bad option. I'd throw them into the mix. They're worth a discussion point there. Oh, Country started in Columbus. Somebody said. Wow, I'm way behind here. Oh, Spooky said it. Move South Carolina back to the ACC. Move Vanderbilt to the American. Move Missouri to the Big Ten. And just That's it. Just we're down 3. I know what you mean, but Cotton's Barbecue and Elected. I've never been there. Wits, Philip. Nice to see you, Philip. Wits is, I think, my wife's favorite. She's from Decatur. Big Bob's is better. I said it. Yes, Neil, we have learned so much about you tonight, my man. We know that you hate Vanderbilt with a passion that I've never experienced in my life. We also learned that you are a barbecue snob, and that's fine. I love it. Memphis and Missouri, nothing else. North Carolina is vinegar-based puke. I like sweet barbecue, so wherever the sweet barbecue is, that's where I'll be. The hickory barbecue sauce from Mike and Ed's, may it rest in peace. Outstanding. Ben King and I, who helped start this podcast network, he was the first one, I think, to text, "It's gone." And he looked at me, or not looked at me because it was a text, obviously, and he was in disbelief. He was downright upset, ready to go like march on Auburn to protest its closing. The Shack Barbecue outside of Talladega, best tater salad. Well, if that's where you're going, the barbecue must not be that good. No, I'll have to try some of these places. Only one side of the state of North Carolina is vinegar based. Quick change of subject here. Good option. What's the word on the Desi Stills? Are you out of the loop, Philip? Because it's become official that he is now going to Arkansas State. From what we talked about this on the Inside the Jungle podcast last night, so it's available now if you want to check out our thoughts on that and other basketball topics. It's grades didn't transfer, or credits, necessarily grades didn't transfer over. He wanted to come in as a graduate transfer. Doesn't seem like that was going to be the case. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm being told. It's kind of awkward, isn't it? You leave Arkansas, go to Auburn, better situation, then you go to Arkansas State. That's awkward. Let's see. East Auburn. All right. Casey's laying out the entirety of what they would like. East Auburn, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida State, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, West Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Ole Miss, West Virginia. Why is West Virginia in there? I would switch over Florida State to the West and put West Virginia in the East. That's a straight up Missouri situation there. Oh, excuse me. I'm not looking at that backwards. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. Yeah, I would reverse one of the teams with West Virginia because that's Missouri all over again. See a lot of people popping in. The numbers are kind of jumping up. As you do come in, please do make sure you smash the like button if you enjoy this type of content, and hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed, so you can know when we go live, when we do other content here. Continuing that march to 900. And we still got a little time left before I'll hop off here. So if you want to call in, don't be shy. It's posted at the top. I promise I don't bite. Miami in the East is not a bad option. I'll be honest with you. It's not. Let's see. Need another guard transfer to replace Desi, a guy who played defense. Defense out in terms of guard defense, we're going to be fine, especially with Katie Johnson. We really need a point guard depth if we're going to get anybody. But is there anybody out there? I don't know. I'm not sure. Sad to see Desi go because I was very excited for the leadership that I thought he was going to bring to the team, being an upperclassman, very much needed. I thought him and Jalen Williams together could have really been the core in terms of the rocks for this team in this year. So I'm very disappointed, but he's got to do what's best for him. Florida. Okay. I think we fired Corey up. Florida State is garbage. No quality win. Saban will last another 2 to 3 years. Too many programs are catching on Clemson, Ohio State, LSU, Texas, and Auburn hired a real coach. Disagree with that a little bit. Not that he's not real, but I think that's indicative of what you were saying about the previous coach, but I'm not going to go there tonight. There'll be a solid 10+ win every season soon. Maybe. We'll see. I really do hope so. It's going to be a hard climb up, though, after you do a complete transition over. from something. But in terms of the point about Saban, I don't think he's going to be another 2 to 3 years if his contract is going to 2028. I would, if you said 2 to 3 years, that would put him at about almost to 2025. I mean, maybe if things are going south, they're not going south though. I think we've realized that now. The days of us hoping that this finally would implode on Nick Saban, that they would catch up to him in the NCAA, it's not going to happen. Go ahead and accept it. There I go, being Debbie Downer for the day. Can I just say it is my opinion that Coach Harsin is preparing Auburn football for the future? I 100% agree with that. I would hope so. I do think that this is going to be a humongous culture change for Auburn football. I think that's clearly evident. Whether that's for the better, that is, I think it's fair to question that. I think if you're not willing to question that, that shows that you're not open to all the possibilities. And I think it shows you can critically think. If you can be excited. Like, I'm excited for Coach Harsin. Don't get me wrong. I'm excited to see what he's going to do. I hope that this was a slam dunk, once in a million hire that nobody was expecting, that everybody looked over and scoffed at. It could be. And I will be cheering right along with everybody else. Super pumped up that it happens. But let's pump the brakes just a little bit. Just a little bit. I think we've got some barbecue discussions going on in here. Iowa's being thrown in, but barbecue in Iowa is awful, he said. Okay, there we go. Almost as bad as their fried chicken. Here, so Spooky, can I ask you this? I've always felt like Iowa and Indiana want to be part of the South, but they can't. Yes. I'm not talking about the schools. I'm talking about the states. They feel like they kind of want to be here with us, but they're not, and they can't. They're kind of like that kid that stands outside the playground and is like, "Hey, can I come play?" And they just can't make it over. I didn't move. Darius, I don't know if you were here. I said full moon earlier. That is some good barbecue. Leaving out Chucks. I didn't think we left out Chucks. Let's see. Yes, Auburn does need to move to the East. Let's talk Auburn women's basketball. I'm excited for the future of Auburn women's basketball. The coaching staff. Yeah. Auburn, their podcast put out an interview with the assistant coach, Coach Stuckey, I think. If you haven't listened to that, you should. I'm really excited for the staff that's here. I loved Coach Flo. I loved her coaching style. I loved everything about her. It just didn't work out. And that's okay. I mean, it's not okay, but it is. Kind of has to be. But, let's see. Indiana tries. Iowa makes fun of Missouri for being Southern because they can't be themselves. Okay. All right. Get your comments and questions in. We're not rushing away right here, but I know that a lot of you switch over to War Rapport, which is at 9:00 here on YouTube. So I want to kind of wrap up before then. Comments, questions, rapid fire, get those in here. Let me do my little boilerplate stuff at the end here. And I hope that you'll consider checking out some of these things. First and foremost, smash the like button if you haven't, subscribe, notification bell, all that good stuff. Description right below this video. You'll find links to ways you can help support the content that we do. We've got a lot of things that we're working on this summer. It's always the kind of the time where we kind of revamp some things, plan some things. They take time, they take money, all that stuff. And we appreciate the easiest thing, the cheapest thing you can do is just be here and listen to our podcasts and stuff like that. So please do that if you haven't. But if you'd like to help support us, there's the Booster Club. A lot of, I don't think I've seen anybody tonight that's in the Booster Club. If I did, I'm sorry if I missed you. But that's $1 a month is all it takes. There's other levels if you want more things, but $1 a month is all it takes at patreon.com/E2C network. And you can help support what we do here on this channel, our podcast network, everything else in between. So that's all the stuff for tonight. Eastern time sucks. It does, doesn't it? What day will Clint be on next week? So Michael, I'm trying to be on the schedule now, barring unforeseen circumstances, that I do a live for you guys every Monday at 8:00. Last week I just dropped the ball on it. But if Clint, unless he wants to do some other days, that's when I've told him I plan to be on, and he's welcome to be here anytime. So Clint has plans to be here next Wednesday, apparently, according to Autumn, who is speaking for him. So I'm sure we'll be doing a little bit of show and tell and discussion next week. Within 3 years, I believe Auburn women's basketball will be top 5, 3 to 5, you mean, in the SEC, and that's how good this coach is and staff. Well, Casey, again, the master of hyperbole, and I only say that because I love you. But if this was a proven coach, meaning a coach that had come from another program and had already built them up into a championship program, I think that's a fair statement. It's not until that happens. Little bit extra, but you can call it if you want. And the day that you're right, we'll all come back to this point and say, Casey called it. Felix, speaking of the Booster Club, he's a member of the Booster Club. Huge thanks to you, my friend, for being a part of that and helping us produce this content. Good to see you, my man. You got here at the end again. I know it's a little late, so you'll have to go back and watch the replay for all the stuff we talked about. Autumn's going to be in the 2nd grade, a teacher next year. Is it in Auburn? Are you guys still stuck in Jacksonville? He brings bad juju to the conversation, but he's cool. What bad juju does he bring? I don't want bad juju on me. I don't know what this is. She changed Mississippi State, talking about our new basketball coach, women's basketball coach, even as an assistant. Well, yes, she had a hand in that, but she's not the coach that was ultimately responsible for that. So if she was the head coach and had done that, sure. She was part of a staff that did it, not her solely. Did she have a humongous part in it? Of course. It's a little bit of a step out to say that right now. You said Shael Garnett would compete with Bo, and now look at him gone. All right, well, let's not beat up on Casey. Casey is, has fun with the predictions, and that is perfectly fine. Last time Clint was on the Dustbuster night. No, Clint was on a couple other nights after that, but the first night he was on is when Dustbuster happened. What was that? Coach O, Dabo, and Saban are the only coaches in the last few years to win championships. Not too many great coaches out there for our Auburn to bring in. Are we planning on bringing somebody else in? I hope not. Yeah, I would say that, honestly. I think I'm going to rehash some old things here, but if you were watching these live streams when we were discussing their coaching search, there was one at the top of my list. That was Dabo Swinney. And I'm not going to get into the reasons for that tonight, but I knew that was unattainable. I get that. Yeah, I mean, when we made the switch, I really was questioning whether this was the right decision at this moment in time. Would it have had to have happened later? Maybe. Would it not have had to happen? Maybe. But I'm pretty sure we made a poor choice in the timing, not the coach. The timing is the big thing. Yeah, good night to you, my friend. We'll see you next week. I wonder if TJ coming to Auburn changes Holden and D's mindset for Auburn. I think that has more to do with Demetrius Davis than anything else. I know we need to wrap up here because I know a lot of you want to switch over, so we'll do that here in just a second. Then Holden, Holden's got to still get here, and then he's probably going to be redshirted. So he's got more time for the TJ thing to sort itself out. I wouldn't worry too much about that right now. Dang it, got the War Dustbuster chant going. There you go. See that? I think it's fair statement about the coaching change timing is the biggest issue, whether it was right or not. All right. I think we've caught up on everything here. If I missed some of y'all's comments tonight, I do apologize, but it is the great thing is y'all are being great in being here and being part of this conversation. And it's hard to keep up with everything sometimes. But again, from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate all of you being here. If you switch over to War Rapport, please do tell them that the E2C Network sent you. Tell them War Eagle for us. And I appreciate you guys being here. Next Wednesday, we'll be back. And make sure you're subscribed and all that good stuff so you'll never miss any videos here. Until I talk to you guys again, War Eagle, my friends.